1984. George Orwell. Monumental book. Fiction literature that has been relevant in its time and relevant in the present time. 1984 by George Orwell. Some of y'all might be familiar with that. You may have read this book in high school, part of your English class. I don't think I didn't read that one. I was reading Goosebumps, I think. Was it Goosebumps? I think it was Goosebumps. Yeah, Goosebumps. That was pretty scary. Those were pretty scary. The one that really got me was the one with Slappy. You remember Slappy, the fucking Slappy, the little fucking dummy, little dummy doll with that that fucking them weird, that fucking, like them weird wooden chompers. You had that weird chomper. Those them chompers. A fucking wooden dummy. Anyways, I was reading Goosebumps. I didn't really get to 1984 in high school. Oh, no, you don't read Goosebumps in high school, do you? Maybe I was reading I don't know, To Kill a Mockingbird or some shit. I don't fucking know. But anyway, 1984 by George Orwell. A landmark novel on the ills of totalitarianism, governmental overreach, propaganda. Very much reflected in the times of the times. So let me give you a quick overview of the novel. So, whoopsie doodle. This is from wikipedia.org. Again, make sure to donate. 1984 is a dystopian social science fiction novel and cautionary tale written by English writer George Orwell. It was published on 8th of June 1949 by Secker and Warburg as Orwell's ninth and final book completed in his lifetime. Thematically, it centers on the consequences of totalitarianism, mass surveillance, and repressive regimentation of people and behaviors within society. Orwell, a democratic socialist, modeled the totalitarian government in the novel after Stalinist Russia and Nazi Germany. More broadly, the novel examines the role of truth and facts within politics and the ways in which they are manipulated. The story takes place in an imagined future, the year 1984, when much of the world has fallen victim to perpetual war, omnipresent government surveillance, historical negativism, I don't even know what the fuck that means, and propaganda. Great Britain, known as Airstrip 1, has become a province of the totalitarian superstate Oceania, ruled by the party who employ the thought police to persecute individuality and independent thinking. Big Brother, the dictatorial leader of Oceania, enjoys an intense cult of personality, manufactured by the party's excessive brainwashing techniques. The protagonist, Winston Smith, is a diligent and skillful rank-and-file worker and outer party member who secretly hates the party and dreams of rebellion. He enters into a forbidden relationship with his colleague, Julia, and starts to remember what life was like before the party came to power. That's kind of like a brief synopsis of the plot, storyline of 1984. And it eerily echoes. It eerily resembles the day and age in which we live in. Pandemic, 2022. I mean, We've been having these freedom convoy rallies and protests here in Canada. Long haul truckers in the dozens, in the hundreds, drove up to Parliament Hill, Ottawa, and they are presently camped out on the doorstep of our government, Parliament Hill in Ottawa. The protest is continuing. Throughout the nation, we've seen these protests. Here in Toronto, Canada, where I hail out of, I went for a walk yesterday, and I saw too different reminiscences of a protest. There was a lot of police presence. There was a police dragnet set up. Intersections blocked off from top to tail. Just a grid of police security in the downtown area. It was like a police state. Big Brother's watching. How dare you stand up for your civil liberties and rights in this time? Take our word as gospel. We know what's better for you and your family. You're just an ignoramus. We're the government. So, 1984. It very much echoes this time. And also with the censorship in media and the political correctness and the censoring of speech. Much like, Rage Against the Machine. They always sing about, what controls the past now controls the future. Who controls the past now controls the present. Now testify. Now testify. 1984. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. That's a slogan from the novel. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. That's what's going on in our society too, with this censorship and removing of information. Very much what the protagonist, Winston Smith, that's what his job was in the Ministry of Truth. His job was to remove information from public media, newspaper, television, whatever. Remove these articles and burn them, shaping the narrative, the future, the past and the future. Then there were the thought police. It was like a thought in this dystopian world, George Orwell's 1984, the thought police. If you were suspected of having thoughts, or speaking in a way in which you're having original thoughts, the thought police would, knock on your door and whisk you away to be executed, tortured for having thoughts. Just basic thoughts. That's how far the restriction of liberty and freedom and the grip of censorship, that's how far it reached to, the thought police. It was a punishable crime by death to even think for yourself. It's certainly a punishable crime by public humiliation to think for yourself in this day and age, to have your own opinion on anything, ranging from COVID-19 to, gender issues, to family structure, to economy, to anything. To voice your opinion in our democracy today is liable to get you executed in the court of public humiliation. You're an idiot. You need to do your research. You need to educate yourself. You need to learn your history. How dare you have a counter opinion to what we tell you? Did you do what they told you? Did you do what they told you? Fuck you, motherfucker! Dun, 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 dun. Who controls the past now? Controls the future? Who controls the future? Controls the past? Who controls the present now? Now testify! Now testify! It's right outside your door! You know, Rage Against the Machine? So, like, you know, you're guilty in the court of public opinion for having your own fucking thoughts these days. And they can take things away from you, like your job, your livelihood. You become ostracized from your community. "1984. George Orwell. Then there's things like, doublespeak. Doublespeak is like when they try to have you hold two contrary opposing viewpoints in the same breath. What's the definition of it? I have it here. Doublethink. So this is also from Wikipedia. Doublethink is a process of indoctrination whereby the subject is expected to simultaneously accept two mutually contradictory beliefs as correct, often in contravention to one's own memories or sense of reality. Doublethink is related to but differs from hypocrisy. George Orwell coined the term doublethink as part of the fictional language of Newspeak in the 1949 dystopian novel 1984. In the novel, its origins within the citizenry is unclear, while it could be partly a product of Big Brother's formal brainwashing programs. The novel explicitly shows people learning doublethink in Newspeak due to peer pressure and a desire to fit in or gain status within the party, to be seen as a loyal party member. In the novel, for someone to even recognize, let alone mention, any contradiction within the context of the party line is akin to blasphemy and could subject this person to disciplinary action and the instant social disapproval of fellow party members. Like many aspects of the dystopian societies reflected in Orwell's writings, Orwell considered doublethink to be a feature of Soviet-style totalitarianism. Kind of much like what we're seeing with this COVID-19 information. A lot of doublethink. You know? It's like, we must wear masks at all moments, even though masks don't work. Masks don't work, but we must wear masks. Unmasking one is going to unmask problems, but these problems don't exist because, you know, the whole fucking double think about the whole fucking thing about it. You make me double think myself to death over here. Double dink. The hypocrisy, the conflicting narrative, the contradiction. We see that with this whole COVID-19 narrative. You know, you must be vaccinated even though vaccinations aren't 100% effective. You must be vaccinated to protect yourself from COVID-19 even though if you get vaccinated from COVID-19, you can still catch it. It's like a lot of doublethink, a lot of contradiction. And also, too, in people's viewpoints, you know, what is a real man? What is a real woman? Well, no, this is what a real man is, but then that doesn't make sense because on the other hand, this is what a real man is, or a real woman, or a real this or that, and this gender fluidity. It's like a lot of double talk, mumbo jumbo is what it shapes up to, ladies and gentlemen. That is, if you don't mind living in totalitarian states, regimes. And, you know, it stretches even beyond just media and, you know, societal narratives. It's even popping up on menus, like cafeteria menus, like fast food menus. Like I went into fucking Tim Hortons the other day, and I went to get a fucking oatmeal raisin cookie. I was like, hey, what happened to the oatmeal raisin cookies? The girl behind the counter, she's like, what oatmeal raisin cookies? I was like, the oatmeal raisin cookies that you guys are known and famed for. I mean, one of the highlights of my morning, most certainly in days past, was going to Tim Hortons, getting a coffee, and an oatmeal raisin cookie. They're delicious, right? So I'm asking the lady, I'm like, what happened to the oatmeal raisin cookies? It seems like there's no oatmeal raisin cookies anymore. It's like you can't find a fucking oatmeal raisin cookie to save your life anymore. What happened to the oatmeal raisin cookies? She goes, what? Oatmeal raisin cookies. They don't gotta burn the books, they just remove them. They don't gotta fucking burn the oatmeal raisin cookies, they just remove them. There's a lot of this double think, double talk, double mumbo jumbo going on. They have no idea what happened to the oatmeal raisin cookies. And I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? Living in this totalitarian regime, double think society where, you know, they're masking what happened to the oatmeal raisin cookies. There's something's going on with these oatmeal raisin cookies. Because they were like the best cookies. Much better than the chocolate chip. I mean, the chocolate chip cookies at Tim Hortons are pretty good. But, I mean, the oatmeal raisin cookies, out of this world. You know, they don't got to burn the books, they just remove them. They don't got to burn the oatmeal raisin cookies, they just remove them. Rip it up, tear it up. Burn the record. They never even existed. What happened to the oatmeal raisin cookies? I really liked the oatmeal raisin cookies. They don't have them anymore. What happened to them? What? Oatmeal raisin cookies. We only have chocolate chip. Something's going on, folks. Hey! There's something awfully screwy going on around here. Oh, that wascally wabbit. There's something awfully screwy going on around here. Awfully screwy. What happened to the oatmeal raisin cookies? Think about that. Riddle me that. So again, 1984. I don't have to say it. This is like a book that's in the societal psyche while it's still, until they remove it, you know, until we double talk and double think our way out of it. It's a book that's been in the societal psyche for many years. And it's just a landmark book. And, you know, Orwell's writing too. Just a very funny and satirical and dark, just real biting. He had a real way with a pen, that Orwell. Had a real cynic bite to it. Very enjoyable read. And it flows really nice. Just beautiful prose as well. It had just a flow to it. A fun, enjoyable read. Kind of a strange way to describe a, you know, dystopia, totalitarian world. You know, a fun, interesting read, but it had a way of flowing that was just very enjoyable. Very dark and cynical and a real page turner. 1984. It was later adapted into, well, actually it was adapted in several incarnations. In the 50s, the BBC, Hollywood studios, they also produced 1984, the film adaptation. The two film adaptations that I saw brief snippets from were centered in that were made in like the 1950s, they seem to center the film on a dystopian world caused by atomic holocaust, nuclear holocaust, which isn't quite the case of 1984. From what I can gather, it's just a dystopian world in perpetual war. There's not so much of an emphasis on atomic war or holocaust. So the 1950s film adaptions, they weren't the greatest. I saw brief snippets of them on YouTube. They weren't so great. They focused on atomic war, which wasn't really in the novel. And they also focused on... They changed the format and the narrative, and they didn't really stay true to the book chronologically. So there was a lot of fuckery going on with the story itself, which made me kind of disinterested. Because the only reason why you'd watch it is if it was faithful to the book. The book is obviously going to overshadow the film. It's a classic book. That's why they adapted it into a film. So why fuck with the formula? Stick to the story, right? So the 1950s versions that I saw weren't quite good. But the 1984 version of 1984, the 1984 film adaptation of 1984 was quite good. This film was it was, let me take a look here, 1984 film. One moment, folks. So the film, this is from Wikipedia. The film was directed, it was released 1984, directed by Michael Radford, starring John Hurt, Richard Burton, as I mentioned earlier, Susanna Hamilton, Cyril Cusack. So this 1984 adaptation of 1984 was quite good. Faithful to the novel. Stylistically, in a cinematic sense, really captured that dystopia, that crumbled society, that it was almost a complete, like kind of what I pictured in my head while reading the novel was very close to what was represented in the film. So the 1984 version is quite good of 1984. Only thing is, the film, I would say, doesn't quite stand alone, which makes sense. The only reason why you would really watch the film is if you read the book. I would highly suggest read the book first, then the film. Because some of the concepts we spoke about, like thought police and thought crime, a lot of the story is from the point of view of Winston's inner thoughts. There wasn't so much dialogue always in the novel because it was a crime. It was a crime to have... The dialogue was very manufactured and sparse. How are you today, sir? Oh, I'm good. Long live Big Brother. Yeah, comrade. And then it would go into like this inner monologue where Winston's thinking about his experiences and this, that, and the other. So the film is quite good, the 1984 version of 1984. I would suggest reading the film. I would suggest reading the book first. Because the film, as good as it is, I don't think it stands alone without reading the book. Because the enjoyment in watching the film is like, oh yeah, I remember this from the book, and oh, I see, and that's an interesting way in which they did it. But without reading the book, I think a lot of it would be missed. It would just be like a strange dystopian world. And a lot of the nuance of the book would be lost if you just watch the film. Yeah. So, and again, I don't have to tell it to you, this is like a classic piece of literature. 1984 by George Orwell. Definitely worth a peruse if you haven't already. And, don't feel bad if you didn't. Like myself, like I said, I was reading Goosebumps. At the time. So, like I said, in high school, different classes read different books. So, like, one class was reading 1984. My class was reading Goosebumps, I think. So, if you didn't get around to reading it in high school, no big deal. Now's the perfect opportunity. 1984 by George Orwell. Fantastic novel. Very fitting for our times as well. So please, folks, do check this out when you get the chance. All right?